I want to go a different direction. I just want to ask you a question. It's just more kind of about human nature.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think human beings are naturally good or naturally bad as human nature?
Tabula rasa. I really think we are. We
Blank slate.
Mm-hmm. Maybe there's some inclination. We're hardwired to be social. I know that. We're also, at least to some extent, hardwired to be self-serving. The best society merges those two. The best interest for you is the best interest for everyone. The social contract from now until we die.
Locke's, Rousseau's, or Hobbes? Which social contract?
I guess I would just say the ubiquitous philosophical term more so than
well,
because
they all wrote on those terms, right? And they totally disagreed.
They all thought different things of humans. They all thought
Hobbes had a very dark view. Rousseau very positive. Locke was more neutral. I'm just curious.
Socialists tend to think that human beings are fundamentally positive, but I reject that.
That's why I'm curious, because you see way too cynical for that.
Well, the implicit suggestion to that, to me, is that socialists think their system would only work if everyone was nice, and I don't believe that. I think that the best economic systems will work when everyone is an absolute POS, just a dirty, horrible human being, and you can incentivize them. Well, but it should. Maybe humans are amazing, but the best systems should survive human greed.
I want to ask you a very simple and general question.
Uh-oh. Those are the worst ones to answer.
It is. Do you think some people are better than other people?
Can I add a bit of nuance to that answer?
Answer however you want.
I think that some people have been developed to be more moral and of better character.
Oh no, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mean moral.
Just better, like they're taller.
That's it.
Oh,
however, but I think your interpretation of the question is part of the answer.
By any metric, there will always be people who are better than others. Always, perhaps by some combination of environment and genetics. I just hope that we can all ride along beside each other.
I agree. I think I mentioned this before the show. If you were to ask anybody on the left or the right, what did you want? It would be like for everyone to prosper, for people to be successful, to pull people out of poverty, things like that. I guess the issue is disagreeing on how we get there.
Well, I think I'm not sure if we want the same thing. I want more a preservation and conservation of what we already have.
Do you want socialism?
Absolutely not.
Oh, no. Slight ideological.
No, but come on.
I mean, we don't need to play the word games. Go
No,
ahead.
Why do you want to preserve?
Well, I think that we have something beautiful, unique, and exceptional. And I take the more Hobbesian view of human nature, which is we're brutish and nasty and awful and cruel. And the fact we've been able to build something decent and civil is pretty remarkable.
But are you saying that we have a good system?
A great system.
And people thrive from the system?
Yeah, I think people flourish and thrive. I think that a rights-based system is naturally the best way to govern.
Do you want people to be stripped of their rights, imprisoned, brutalized, impoverished?
Of course not. No. And I mean, the sacrificing of rights is something that usually has to be earned negatively, like murdering somebody.
So this is what I mean, because I think I could ask you the same question. Do you want people to be brutalized, impoverished, imprisoned?
Of course not.
Taking their rights away.
But I would never want to grow complacent. You're both familiar with the Marxian theory of dialectic materialism.
You
correct?
mean Hegel's theory?
Oh no, he had the dialectic, and we built on it, or he built.
I'd love to get into. I really want to get into the Marx thing because I'm super fascinated by it.
No, I just want to say, the theory. I mean, put simply, I guess, is that human society, the human project, it evolves as a product of antagonism. Grinding antagonism between people in Marxian view of different.
That's very Hegelian, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, he was a student of Hegel.
I know he was part of this. He was the young Hegelian.
Yeah,
and he won the argument.
Well, no, I'm not. Well, you're not. I'm just saying, like, he would get mad at you if you said he was Hegelian influence, but I don't think I would. Hegel was a smart guy. I just can't read his work because
the phenomenology of spirit is impossible to read.
Thank you. All right, I was worried you're going to make fun of me. I just want to say,
no, it's really hard. He made the very simple complex.
Yeah.
We agree on something.
I just want to say, sorry. I just want to, the project of humans moving forward, I think that antagonism fuels it, but in the best way. Not antagonism like war, but antagonism in the sense that we look at our ideas, our values, and we challenge them.
So I just want to say something we disagree on. I don't think humanity's a project.
Do you think we're headed towards something better than what we have today?
Probably not. Oh. I think that we're probably engaging in the second law of thermodynamics currently, that we're untangling. We're going to chaos, not order.
See, to me, this is the thing, and I'm not trying to patronize. Conservatives have been shown to be more fearful on average, and I think if they thought that way, it would be very warranted.
But some fears are legitimate.
Certainly.
Winston Churchill's fears about the evil Germans were legitimate.
No, I'm not. No, fear is not always illegitimate. And there are elements of this. I think, though, that if society is to collapse, it would probably be from climate change more so than like the...
Oh, come on. You don't believe that.
No, for sure. we'll see it, assuming COVID doesn't get you. We'll live to see some
Assuming.
pretty
You
severe.
hear that?
We see it right now.
You know, my problem is,
Oh,
you know, like I see all the news, I see all the arguments about climate change, and I'm like, I understand them. And then you get Obama buying beachfront property, you get the celebrities flying in airplanes, and I'm like, how am I supposed to trust any of
Bernie.
these people?
Got to get Bernie. Guy rode the train to work. He didn't have to do that. Bernie's the man.
True revolutionary. So,
Well, just to
Yeah,
finish
Bernie
the point. I'm sorry
was-
because I kept getting sidetracked.
but the idea of the human project is super interesting to me because that's a collision point we're going to have. So
Yeah, well, I'd like to think. I mean, people have always said this is the best it gets. You know, the Postmaster General back in, was it the Postmaster General? Or was it the Patent
no,
Office?
the patent
Minister?
office 1900. All the patents have been made.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm
and-
not saying it's the best it's been. I'm not saying improvement is not possible.
Maybe we can
Don't get
make
me pop-
little improvements, but when I try to put myself in the shoes of men past, you know, I don't know, somebody in feudal China, and to them, what I live in today would have been incomprehensible to them in every imaginable sense, every conceivable way. But their arguments for the permanence of society then would have been better than mine today because they would have lived in a stable feudal society for millennia. And today, I now am here using technology that would have been alien to humans 20 years ago.
I think about like the Cultural Revolution. I think about the revolution in Russia. And you mentioned that conservatives tend to be more fearful, and I think there's history that shows us things can go bad. You can have something that's good, not great, could probably be better, and then end up with an unchecked movement that results in millions dead.
For sure.
20 to 40 million, I think, in the Cultural Revolution. We had Lily Tong Williams on the other night, and she was telling us these stories. They're scary.
Always hindsight, right? Because people thought this about every major event in social progress in America's history as well. The breakup, the Confederacy, the Civil War, the fight to abolish slavery, sure. You know, suffrage for women, yes. The Civil Rights Act, yes. Gay marriage, yes. Every time we make a step forward, you're probably anti-gay marriage, right? Because are you?
I'm pro-traditional marriage.
Okay, sure,
Yeah.
right. Anti-gay marriage.
Pro-tradition. Yeah.
Gotcha. Every
Different
time,
definitions.
One man, one woman. Yeah.
every time we take a step forward, well, we agreed on the 3-parent household before.
I disagreed on
That was
polyamory, actually.
50% more efficient than the previous method.
And
That's not actually a study, is it?
And 10 times more chaotic
are you actually
and
citing
way
something?
more perverse.
Possibly not
I'm
a
not
linear
actually citing anything.
develop. It's possibly not a linear growth pattern with
Yeah, maybe
parents
not.
in the household.
It's actually exponential. It just goes up forever.
Yeah, that's very.
Albert Einstein had 12 parents. It's
Yes.
just,
By the time you hit 12 parents, the children just a god, by the way. Just a
Yeah,
it's
little
like the
glowing-
warp scale
very,
Star
Council
Trek.
very,
It's,
very
uh,
ubermensch, but continue, yeah.
Sorry. It always feels like everyone argues like this is the best it gets and any future steps would be treacherous, but then we always make that next step. I don't know if America's going to be around forever. We're a young country, and countries far older than ours have fallen in the lifetime of America. So I can't look at what we have today or the people that I live with or the values that I believe in and assign to them a feeling of permanence, but I can say this. I fear stagnation. And every country that has ever set itself upon stagnation has always died. Every time. Every country always seeks to better itself. And maybe that road to betterment leads to ruin, but the path of stagnation is always ruinous.
I agree. Our culture has stagnated severely. One thing I always bring up is like Christmas music written in the 50s. We still play it nonstop over and over again.
Thank you.
Movies have become repetitive, redundant, reboots. It's devolved from where we had these interesting pieces of art to just regurgitated crap over and over again.
Can I just take some exception with your argument? First of all,
Certainly.
there is this kind of revisionist belief that somehow conservatives, in the traditional sense, were against some of those social movements, which is just not true. Now, I'm not saying you'd be a Confederate, and I'm not even getting to the party switching thing. But there is a direct lineage between hyper-focusing on racial politics in the 1860s and the 1920s, and some of the people on the American left that are just completely obsessed with American, racial politics.
It's equality versus hierarchy, right?
But what do you mean by that?
Well, back then, the slave owners wouldn't have been like, I'm really obsessed with race. Well, equality. Now, it's obsession with race can be pernicious in many ways, but I think there's a pretty big difference between being obsessed with the idea of racial equality and being obsessed with
I think
racial
it's
domination.
equally as pernicious, just they don't have the power to implement it. But we kind of already did that.
Do you
whole
think I'd
discussion.
do that? Like
You? No, I don't think you would. I mean, I don't know you well enough. You seem rather decent.
I try my best,
but
like
I wouldn't give power to Nicole Hannah-Jones.
I don't know who that is.
She founded the 1619 Project.
Oh, I just read the thing. I don't know.
we have
much
a
of the
we have a
meta-knowledge.
constitution to prevent us against people like that. What I'm saying though is that, for example, I'm not against social change. I mean, I'd love to abolish abortion. for example. I'd love to put fathers back in the home.
No doubt.
So conservatives are not necessarily always saying, no, we don't want to improve, we want to stagnate. We want the correct form of social change.
So let me ask this then. Let's get to the core of it then. What values are you looking to maximize?
This is a great question.
Not just like morality, because that could mean the same thing or different things to anyone. But if you were to look at a society and were asked to assess its worth, what metrics would you look towards?
It's ability to defend those that can't defend themselves.
Okay.
Charity, generosity, integrity, faith to your creator, the ability to pass down good and moral values to the next generation, one that believes in work and one that believes in the cause of the nation above the self.
All right.
I've got an idea.
I think that's a
with
fairly collectivist point, that last one, though, wouldn't it be?
Well,
The nation above itself?
I mean, you could call it collectivist, but I wouldn't say the state. I'd say the idea of the nation, right? So there's two different things, and those are conflated sometimes by libertarian socialist types, which is a walking contradiction. I'd love to ask you about that.
Sure.
But just like it's kind of just being
I
like
might
a Christian
answer it-
atheist,
I
right?
might answer it when you're done, by the way, because
Yeah.
I think my follow-up might touch on that.
But the state is a creation of the people. The people are the country. That's why our Constitution, the preamble, says we the people, not we the federal government, right? So the people are the nation. And so that's why I differentiate between the two. Do you have a loyalty? Do you have a belief that you want to create something bigger than yourselves? I think that's a moral good.
To me, and I mean this without meaning to hyperbolize, but to me that's always strung rather fascist. The myth of the common man, the people, the Volk, the idea that there is a state, and Germany was a state, of course, but Hitler didn't really appeal to the state. It was the concept of the fatherland that he really hit on, and the people were a beating heart of the fatherland. They were an instrumental organ. And to me, the problem with this is that when you get down to it, this thought process, this mentality, it drives men to do terrible, terrible things. Because interpersonally, all of the chemical effects of empathy kick in. I look at you, I see you. But you start bringing in concepts like the nation, the fatherland, and it becomes very easy to convince people to compel themselves towards courses that they would otherwise not.
So expected you to use a 1930s reference earlier, so congratulations.
No,
'Cause
well, I'm only saying, I'm not calling you a fascist. I'm only saying
no, I know
that
you did do the correct. I didn't mean to hyperbolize, but there's other nations today that have those values that we would never call fascist, like Japan. Japan has very strict immigration.
Well, I think Korea is actually a better example, to be honest.
I really don't like either of those countries for the reasons that I've
You don't like
described.
Korea?
I think they're both deeply conservative countries.
I
that-
agree with you.
Right.
They're
yeah.
wonderful.
And I think they do so in part because there's a degree of anti-individualism in the subservience they all expect of the common good. Now, it's funny. I feel like our roles are being reversed a little bit here.
Isn't
but
that interesting?
the common good isn't something I appeal to. For me, the value I want to
No,
maximize.
I just appeal to the good,
the good. Sure, the
which
good
is two different things.
is freedom. That's what I care about most. And that's what libertarian socialism is about. There are many types of freedoms, positive and negative. If I might indulge very briefly, like, is a man thrown to a lawless desert without food, water, or clothing free? I'm really asking.
So probably no.
I agree. He's free to die.
But that's an extreme example,
Sure.
not applicable in modern wealthy America.
No,
or
but-
any Western nation.
But it's a philosophical base.
It's also a Rousseauian argument. Man's born free, and he, spends the rest of his life in chains. It's
Right.
just anti-commercial in nature.
Well, no, but it's a base philosophical argument because it's true. They're lawless. There's nothing preventing him from doing anything in that environment, but he has no ability to act on
But
his
do you know what he
desires.
does have? Consciousness.
Well, sure.
So that's a natural rights doctrine that I will defend.
Well, I mean, I like consciousness too. The only point that I'm getting at is when it comes to people's freedom and the ability for people to protect their freedom, this is what I care about. It's what Marx cared about. If you actually read what he wrote, and
I have. I've read Das Kapital. I've read the Manifesto.
Then
And
you-
guess what? He was right about some things.
then you know.
But not everything.
He didn't
And
talk
he was really wrong
about equality. He didn't write on equality. He wrote on freedom because he believed that society was a very complex, interlocking network of systems that in some ways liberated men and in other ways enslaved them.
But do you know what he got wrong? He got wrong that sometimes people can be free for other devices that they are not able to regulate. They can be free not from alcoholism, drug addiction, some sort of any other sort of perverse addiction. The idea of freedom is a very libertarian.
But I
view of
agree with
freedom.
that, though.
No, I
So
know you do.
the greatest
I say
society-
that. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just the greatest society is one where a man is born and there are as few things as possible preventing him from doing whatever he wants for the rest of his
I
life.
totally disagree.
So long as, of course, he doesn't deprive others of the ability to do the same.
So I think that's a miserable society.
Freedom?
No, that's not freedom. That's licentiousness or degeneracy. That's chaos.
What is degeneracy? I like men.
How about pedophilia?
Okay. Well, obviously,
You said
that would
whatever
infringe-
he wants. Is
as long as they
pedophilia
don't-
freedom, Vaush?
As long as they don't infringe on the rights of others. I'm sure you could believe. I would believe.
Well,
that
so
infringes on the
there
rights of
are
others.
limits on freedom, is what you're saying. It's not this Wild West
Yeah, well,
campaign.
as
So
long
where do you
as you-
get those limits from?
Well, obviously, you would probably have to have a pretty complex interlocking legal system to determine what we agree upon as like a reasonable limits we can place on people's behavior. We have that now to an extent.
No, I know. So like pedophilia, bad.
That
right?
would be a bad thing.
Okay, kidnapping,
That would be a bad thing.
rape.
That would be a bad thing.
Why do you think those things are bad?
I think they're bad because you're stripping other people of the ability to do that which they will. With all those examples, you're inflicting harm on a person.
How about dealing drugs?
I think that dealing drugs is a person's freedom, as is taking a
But
person's.
you're taking
What
some-
about dealing drugs to kids?
Dealing drugs to kids, I think I would disagree with that, probably because I think there's something exceptional about addictive substances and children. That being said, I think a lot of stuff would apply to children specifically. Contract law. Kids can't sign contracts.
So
But there's
do
nothing
you,
wrong
do you see
with
what I'm getting at?
contracts.
Eventually, you do agree that a conservative framework is necessary.
But I don't think that's a conservative framework because there are other things I care about that you would always disagree with, like collective ownership of the means of production.
yeah, I totally disagree.
Which,
I think private property and freedom are linked together.
which
Here's-
would give workers the most freedom possible.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.